Okay, second part of the video, and we now turn our attention to the topic of writing. As you can imagine, writing, much like we've said about reading comprehension, is very definitely a multifaceted process. And as with comprehension, any multifaceted process, it could break down in several different places or ways. Okay, I want to emphasize three parts to this process. Not that there couldn't be more, we couldn't tease out some subparts, but these three have a strong sort of history in the research. The first is what we might call transcription skills. This is penmanship, handwriting, spelling, just being fluent with the idea of transcribing our ideas from our brains to the paper. Transcription skills have a huge influence, especially on younger students writing. Most struggling writers struggle with transcription skills. We see this, for instance, in research studies where they have kids narrate or dictate what they're going to write versus having them transcribe it themselves. And as you might expect, they're composing, they're writing in the form of dictation. When we take out the requirement of transcription, is much better, much lengthier, more detailed, etc., than if they have to do their own transcription. So, if you are down there in those early primary grades, the idea of teaching handwriting, and I don't just mean script, but also manuscript handwriting, teaching letter formation, helping them achieve fluency in letter formation, in spelling high frequency words, etc., that is probably where you'll get at least your first initial big bang for the buck in terms of helping kids who may be struggling with writing. We overlook it far too much. I know that we may be headed towards a time when keyboarding becomes the critical skill here, but you all know we are not there yet. We may be in this kind of in-between limbo for many years to come before perhaps keyboarding sort of totally takes over in terms of kids transcribing their writing. So until that time, we need to teach the handwriting skills and probably the keyboarding skills as well, because again, it's going to be kind of a limbo for a while. Okay, after transcription, we get what I categorize, and those of you who have been with me know we use this term a lot in the fall, I believe it was, written language skills. The skills that go along with actually producing written language as opposed to oral or speaking language. This very conscious, deliberate, and versatile sentence writing. Paragraphing as an organizational structure. Writing conventions, by which I mean, punctuation and subject-verb agreement and those kinds of things. I believe written language skills are far too overlooked as just an absolutely critical piece to this writing proficiency puzzle. They are very teachable if we take the time and we use the kinds of things we've seen in the reading side of things. Very concrete, very specific, very systematic instruction. I say all the time, and I'm sure you've heard me say it, show me a child who's a very good sentence writer, very fluent, very versatile as a sentence writer, I will put my money on that kid as far as being a good overall writer. Show me a kid who's a good paragraph writer, wow, the chances are very strong that that is a good overall writer. And so these kinds of written language skills, we're going to see in a second a couple of my approaches, and you've seen them in the past, very critical. Now, there are also, of course, process strategies involved in written language. I tend to think that these are overemphasized with very young kids who aren't perhaps as ready to be strategic as they are to simply learn written language skills. But there is no doubt that at least two of these have shown up very positively in the research, which is teaching planning, okay, very important and can be done in some very concrete ways, and teaching revision. Revision, I think, has a little bit of a ambiguous relationship in the research, because at least at a certain age, kids obviously they can revise in a very focused manner, change a word, correct a sentence, but not in that sense that we typically think of, which is that sort of global revision that takes into account organization and this should be moved up there and so forth. So we have to be pretty, I think, careful with young kids with teaching revision to do it in a very concrete, a very focused, very specific way. All right. If we consider these as our three key targets for this writing instruction and writing difficulties, here's a couple tools, a couple ways that I really like to approach this. Okay, first, in terms of the word written language skills, that's my WLS there. There are so many skills that we can teach very specifically and very explicitly, give lots of guided practice to. So let me give you an example of teaching, and again, if you've been with me, we probably did this both fall and spring. I believe in it very strongly. So let's say we've got kids around 2nd, 3rd grade who can write good, simple sentences. Johnny went to the store. And we're going to try to expand their sentence writing repertoire, give them some variety of structures. And so we use what I call, for kid-friendly terms, a 2-part sentence. And we're going to get very specific with that. And I want it to begin with after. And so I might provide an example. After it rained, Johnny went to the store. Or after his family ate breakfast, they went to the store. Okay? We can have kids practice following our model. We did this again. We did this right at the beginning of class all through the spring. I want you to follow this model. And of course, we were all able to, and kids can. And they'll write their after sentences. After I went swimming, I dried off and laid in the sun. Those kinds of things. Now, we also showed this, but I think what's critical is that we provide a bridge, because we don't want students just to write an after sentence. We want to be able to use that structure in the context of connected text. And so I like this idea of a bridge step. Hey, I want you to write 3 sentences, in our terms a triple sentence session, about a dog at the park. And I want you to make 1 an after or before sentence. So the assignment is sort of bite-sized, but it still gives them practice. It creates that bridge to where they learn how to use that new sentence structure in more than a single sentence. Okay, and then we want them to get to a fully integrated stage where I say, hey, in your paragraph today, maybe we're describing the desert, I want you to use an after or before sentence. Okay, and by that time, we've practiced it, we've bridged it, and now it's part of their repertoire and they can use it in text. So this would be sort of a model of teaching a very specific written language skill. All right, let's go on. Okay, now here is something again that we looked at in the fall, and I want to bring back to your mind, because how valuable, especially for our struggling writers, to address both the fluency and a little bit of the process strategy elements of writing. Okay, this notion of power writing. If you recall, we start with a chart like this. We're going to go through 3 rounds of 90-second writing. So we emphasize to kids, hey, you're only going to write for 90 seconds. I want you to write quickly, but as best as you can. So it's not just random, scribbling. So we emphasize both sides. You write well, but as quickly as you can. Okay? Now, I can give 2 sort of simple ideas. Hey, first round, I want you to write about either a lake or a mountain. Okay, so you could describe it, you can be there, you can say what you would do, you went swimming in a lake, you hiked on a mountain, what you saw. Any of those things is good. It's just generally about a lake or a mountain. You pick your word and go. I'm going to time you from 90 seconds. At the end, let's say I have 20 second graders. We go through this chart and we say, okay guys, let's see how many words we got down. Count them up. Great. Raise your hand if you got 0 to 9. Don't feel bad. This was our first round. This is our first try. We're not competing here against anyone but ourselves because you're going to have another try at this. Okay, 5 hands go up. Okay, we had 5 kids. How many wrote 10 to 15? I had 4 kids. How many kids wrote, 16 to 20? 3 kids. How many kids, and that kind of thing. Second round, guys, get ready. I want you to write about a deer or a bear. Maybe someone encounters one, you just describe it, they're out hunting, whatever you want. Go. Same thing, 90 seconds to write. How many wrote 0 to 9? And we go across. I guarantee you, your numbers will look like this. The kids inevitably get better. They start producing more fluently. Of course, that is far from everything, in terms of quality writing. But one thing that good writers do is get pen to pencil or pen to paper and get started. And they can write fluently. And so this is, not the whole ball of wax by any stretch, but it is a critical one. We go through a third round. Now, that's the power writing to just develop some fluency. Now, there's a wonderful second step to this process that now starts to address in a bite-sized way the revision process strategy. So I tell the kids, okay, I want you to choose your second or third round writing because they should have done a little better, gotten a little more into it there. And now I'm going to give you 4 minutes to make it better, to make it your best writing because you only had 90 seconds. Nobody writes their best writing in 90 seconds. So how could we make this better? And we get some suggestions from kids. I could add more about this, add more detail. Usually they'll go to more. So we want to help them see a few other, I could change some words. I could use better words for this. The way I said that, I used all simple sentences. Maybe add some sentence variety. And so we want to help them build a wider sort of repertoire of revision strategies. Of course, this is a very focused revision. It's not a, revise this 5-paragraph essay by moving this here and that there. But this is the revision that we know developmentally younger kids are ready for. Okay, so we have them revise. We give them 3, 4, 5 minutes. Say, okay, great. Now, who wants to read their revised writing? But to read, you also have to be able to tell us specifically what you did to make it better. So we actually hear from the kids and they get the chance to articulate. Anybody who reads has to be able to articulate how they revised, how they made it better. And so in that way, the class builds familiarity with that. Okay, we need to move on, but a great tool for those of you with me in the fall, you have this in the Fern Farnan reading. Okay, now, our next piece is the perfect paragraph. Again, this is something we saw briefly in the fall. This is an example of this explicit teaching of a written language skill. The basic building block of writing organization, the paragraph. Again, show me kids all the way through about 5th grade who are good paragraph writers, and I'll show you good writers. So, let me show you a few of my tools. And my wife has done this consistently in 3rd grade and has had tremendous, results in terms of her kids' writing. High percentage of proficient and advanced writers in that class. Let me show it to you. I'm going to upload these for you. Some of you probably have them, but for those of you who don't, but let me just walk you through. Again, you'll notice those elements of good instruction. Very explicit, nice and concrete, good models, good guided practice, and so forth. So just take a look at what we have here. For our notion of the perfect paragraph, we decided to emphasize a well-developed main idea, good opening and closing sentences. So introduction and a conclusion that sort of do their job. We threw in, partially because of the nature of the standardized testing, or state testing, at least 3 detail sentences. I'm not wild about the number, giving a specific number, but we felt like this was kind of important. And then my importance on sentence variety. So a balance between 1 and 2 part sentences, short and long sentences, sounding good and flowing together. Those 4 elements. We give kids an example of a positive, an effective paragraph, and start getting them used to looking for these. Can you find the opening and closing? How many details? Can you find a 2-part sentence? Okay, now we go back. We have an actual rubric for this. Main ideas, they just develop a little or they develop completely. Opening and closing, that both do their jobs. Sentence variety and flow. Oh yes, there it is. Okay, so we have kids actually, get familiar with the rubric, score something that's pretty brief, not that effective paragraph, score a more effective paragraph, and start to learn how to use that. Okay, so for instance, here they would simply mark, main idea, it's not finished at all. Opening and closing, maybe a so-so, and so forth. And then they'd have a chance to do that on the more sort of effective paragraph. We have lessons then about the specific parts of this. So here would be, for instance, the topic sentence. If we're going to say this is part of our perfect paragraph, then we better be teaching them specifically how to do it. So here's some nice guided practice, and you'll say, here's a few examples. Now, try a topic sentence for a paragraph about your favorite sport. What would that sound like? Reasons why we should protect nature. What would that sound like? Ready for a challenge? Write a 2-part topic sentence about winter in Colorado, and so forth. So a very focused lesson. Now, what's really cool about teaching the perfect paragraph is it easily translates into the kinds of things that the Common Core are asking kids to do in terms of writing in response to their reading. Here's main idea, perfect paragraph. Find the main idea by asking who is the main who and what is the main what. That's from our reading work. Now, write it using this frame. The main idea of this text is that 2 to 3 supporting details, a concluding sentence. They're familiar with the perfect paragraph structure. Now they can write in response to reading about the main idea. Similarly, translates great to something like compare and contrast. Describe 2 or 3 important So here's a nice topic sentence. Dolphins and whales have many similarities and a few differences. They are similar in 2 important ways. First, in contrast, they're different, and so forth. And so it's that same perfect paragraph structure applied to the kinds of Common Core tasks around writing about reading. Okay, I'm going to upload those so you have a chance to download them and take a look at them and save them if you'd like. I can say they've been very effective both with my wife's 3rd grade and in the schools I work at in Fort Collins in 4th grade. All right, this is my last chance face-to-face, so I want to say how much I've enjoyed sort of responding to you over these last few weeks. For those of you who've been with me for this now, the 3rd class, wow, I think the adoption's complete. I consider you good friends, and I hope that you will stay in touch when we get back in the fall. Maybe I'll see some of you in literacy methods in your senior year, although I think you already know everything that I know, so that might be a little repetitious. But it would be a true delight to have you at that time, and also in the student teaching process. Regardless, please stay in touch. I always say this to my method students. It's more relevant there because they're moving, a lot of them, into their first jobs right away the next fall. My email. get in touch when you have questions or concerns, or things are not working out, thorny kids, management problems. I hear from former students who are in different states, different regions across Wyoming, different grade levels, and I really enjoy being able to, just stay in touch and continue to be in dialogue about their teaching as they move into their own careers. Finish up strong this week. I want to emphasize there is no quiz, applause. In its place, I've put a web review of the Project Write website out of Vanderbilt University. I think you'll enjoy going there, and I want you to see those resources. Those are some of the folks who've had very strong experimental results in terms of writing with elementary age students, and you'll see what kinds of things they have there for you to use. All right? Remember that this unit ends on Friday because the class ends on Friday. The Maniacs will be off to California on Monday, and you guys will be free to whoop it up the rest of the summer. But consequently, threaded discussion ends on Friday. Things like the website review due on Friday. Make sure you get all those pieces together and get them in so you can finish strong in terms of the class and the points. All right? Have a great week and have a great rest of the summer. And please do come by and see me, whether it's at my office or around campus. All right? Take care, everyone.